Hello. Hello. Glad to see you guys. My name is Dr. Crystal Porter, and I would like to welcome you to our lunchtime chat. I am the owner of Main Insights, which is a company that it does research on hair and scalp so that we can understand the needs and then disseminate that information to those who need it. This is brought to you by Our Black Hair Matters, and it is a platform and an initiative to really give people a safe, I provide information that is useful and trusted from a scientific point of view, but also I want to make sure that people have a way to voice what's going on. So for those of you who have joined, welcome, and put your name in the chat and let us know where you're from. Also, I collaborate with serious and conscientious hair practitioners. And if you are interested in learning how to join forces to make a real difference in the area of hair science, please contact me and put call in the chat, and I will be sure to reach out to you, and you will have the ability to have my scheduler so we can set some time. All right, so while you're waiting to come on, I want to introduce Miss Ayinoluwa Abegunde. She is a student at Northwestern University, and she is a chemical engineering major, which is actually pretty neat. For those of you who are joining, yes, good day. And I wanted to bring Ayin on because she reached out to me as an ambitious student because she is interested in hair science and pursuing hair science. And I thought it was really bold, but wonderful for her to do so. I actually have a number of students that I mentor, a lot of them through Chicago State University, but I also have several students who are in graduate school. And so it was really a joy for Ayin to reach out to me because I feel that hair science is not a place where you find a lot of people who look like us, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to, congratulate you for doing that because I don't think a lot of people are ambitious, or I think they have, are a little scared to do so. So I'm glad that you were able to reach out. Thank you for joining, Amy and Rosetta. Really appreciate it. So Ayin, can you please, I just gave just the surface information. Can you provide more of a background about who you are and what you're doing?
Of course. Thank you very much for having me here. I'm really excited to be here. Again, I'm Ayin. I'm originally from Nigeria, but I'm currently schooling in the US at Northwestern. I have varied interests in hair because I believe it's multifaceted. And so right now I'm using my college time to explore the different parts of hair care and hair science, as well as hair art, marketing, and just the different types of careers one could explore in hair care. I believe that we need more Black women in hair care, especially when it comes to caring and understanding how to care for our hair. I believe that we have the hair and we have a lot of experience with it, and being able to combine the science with the experience or the art with the experience, I think is very important and would add very important ideas to this space. So I'm very excited to be here to talk about hair science, what my journey has been like going through this space. It's not something a lot of people decide to do. People are usually surprised when they hear I'm a chemical engineer going into hair. So I really also want to spread the word and say this is a possibility and that there are paths to take and there are people like Dr. Porter as well who are willing to help you during the process.
Thank you. Really appreciate the introduction of yourself. I think that people oftentimes don't think about chemical engineering in hair. So we'll go into that a little bit further in a little bit. But first of all, I wanted to address something that is just the hottest topic in Black hair right now. And that is the young lady, Miss Brown, Tessica Brown, who inadvertently, I believe, that hasn't been confirmed, but she put Gorilla Glue in her hair instead of styling glue. And so the issue with that, of course, is that Gorilla Glue is a very strong adhesive. And many of you may not know what I'm talking about. So I do have a clip that I want to show so that you can be aware of what we know so far. So, all right, let's play that video.
Finish it off with the little Got to Be glue spray, just to keep it in place. Well, I didn't have any more Got to Be glue spray, so I used this Gorilla Glue spray. Bad, bad, bad idea. Y'all, look, my hair, it don't move. You hear what I'm telling you? It don't move. I've washed my hair 15 times, and it don't move.
So for all who don't know, this Gorilla Glue spray.
All right, so that is the clip of what happened to Miss Brown, and I heard about it Thursday. Actually, both of my daughters wanted to definitely make me aware of what was going on, and I looked in horror and disbelief, because as a chemist, I know the implications of that. But Ayin, I want to start with you. Give your opinion about what your thoughts are and how you felt.
I had a lot of thoughts on this, but I would first like to say that this is so sad. I hope her scalp is okay. I hope her hair. I hope they're able to figure something out, and I hope she as well is okay through this entire process. I know she's gone viral, but we also need to care about her health right now, because like you said, there are grave consequences for using such a product on your skin, on your hair, or any part of your body. Um, but when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about, why is this even happening? It's viral because people are less likely to do it, but if someone is doing it, then there's a reason. And how can we avoid it from happening in the future? And so some of the things I was looking at firstly was really educating consumers about how people market and how people brand. So she mistook this Gorilla Glue for this Gorilla Snot hair gel, which is used on hair. And I did some research to see which came first, the very strong glue for like the wood or the snot gel, because I was thinking whichever one came after could possibly be using from the branding of the first one as being something for superior hold, or will keep your hair down. So the adhesive one, the one that is used for window construction, was in 1991, and I found that the Merkle glue, the one for hair, was from 2007. I found that they filed for a trademark for that name in 2007. And so I think from here, what we see is that the one which came in 2007 may have been profiting from this brand of Gorilla and the picture of that being something new or something that is strong. But consumers need to dial back and say, whenever there's a trend or brand for something, can we look for it? Because she unfortunately might have been thinking, this is probably the same brand name. They use it for the same things. I'm gonna put it on my hair. And unfortunately, that is not the case. So really understanding when there's a trend, when there's a wording that people use, why are they using it? What is the science behind it? Not just going by it and following that, right? I was also really thinking about how sometimes we tend to think that our hair is indestructible, and how we can do anything to it, put many things on it, use as many products, as many oils, as many glues, as many extensions, and we sort of forget that our hair is fragile and is also connected to our scalp and our skin. So really understanding that we need to take more care of our hair. We need to be more conscious about what we're putting on our hair. If she had read the ingredients list, probably would have seen very quickly that this might not be something that you use on your hair. If she had read the instructions, right? I was listening to your live, I think, and Ellington, excuse me, and you were talking about how people were complaining that they would use deep conditioners overnight and it would irritate their scalp. Well, if you read the instructions, it tells you to use it for 15 to 30 minutes. And so if your scalp gets irritated, then that is expected because you're using it for longer than you should. So really, if she had read the instructions again, she would have known that it was not meant to go on the and that would have been avoided. And so these are just some things that I believe we can also learn from as consumers and can take lessons from to avoid this from happening with any other thing in the future. And again, I really hope she's okay. I went to read more on the blue and they advise you to seek medical help. You inhale it, if you're dizzy. There are a lot of things in there. She probably used it in her bathroom as well. This is something you use outside in an airy area. And so I really just hope at the end of the day that people can take these lessons from it and really learn from it instead of just like, laughing at her or feeling bad for her. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. You're absolutely right. It should be an example of something that we should learn from. But one thing I wanted to talk about, because I saw the comments, and I'm actually grateful that the majority of the comments were positive and very supportive. There were a lot of people who were in disbelief, and I think there were some people who said that. So Taria said that she didn't think that it was a real video. Other people talked about the fact that she was really sad for her. And that was the majority of comments that I saw. But there were also some comments that gave a lot of advice. And the thing about this is it's hard to give advice because of just how sensitive, not only of the issue it is from what she did, but the chemistry involved. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So, a lot of people are familiar with Elmer's glue, right? And so that's polyvinyl acetate. It's a adhesive, but it's water soluble. And so you can easily clean it off. It's not anything that is a strong hold. And when she showed the can, and it said like heavy duty. So it was the heavy duty version of Gorilla Glue. And that is a dicyanoacetate. And so it's a very strong hold and it's water resistant. And it has solvent. So she showed the can. And so it's likely acetone in the can that disperses the polymer or the actual adhesive. And as it starts to evaporate, the acetone starts to evaporate, or whatever solvent that they use in the can, then that's what makes it harden and cure. And so after 24 hours, you usually have like the maximum curing that's going to occur. But it probably happens sooner than that because most adhesives like that will cure with time, and it increases the acceleration of the curing will happen with heat. And so she put it on her scalp. So the body heat is going to accelerate the reaction. And I think she said it was about a month that it's been on her scalp. So my heart went out to her because it's a lot of implications. So yes, I think Amy said something about the chemicals in the adhesive and how it can affect her health by being absorbed by her scalp. So that is one of the things that is a little bit more complicated, because not only do you have the chemistry involved in actually, having the cohesive forces of the glue hold things together. So if you have hair intertwined in there, it's going to hold it together through cohesive forces. Then you have the adhesive forces of the glue along on top of the scalp. And so it's meant to hold. And the issue is as the solvent evaporates, everyone has usually dealt with like acetone. Maybe not a whole lot of men, but women definitely. You put on fingernail polish and you put the acetone based nail polish remover on your nails, and you can feel it's a little cool. So the thing is, the viscosity or the liquid is highly volatile. So it's cool because you actually feel the volatility of the liquid actually, it's evaporating. So it's cool.
Yeah.
The problem with that is when you have something that's so volatile as a solvent, it can actually go into the nooks and crannies of your scalp. And so instead of just having an adhesive bond, you actually can have a mechanical bond where it's like locked. And so that is what is really concerning, because it's not only fixed through chemistry, it's fixed through a physical mechanism as well. And so just working all that through and out, I can't even imagine what she could be going through. So I wanted to explain a little bit about the severity and the concerns that I had initially. And so it wasn't surprising to hear a lot of advice. So I saw people say that, water, the fact that she washed her hair, that the water would seal it in, and that's not true. That water had nothing. It was going to cure with or without water. So there's so many comments. People are trying to be useful, but they really don't know. 3M adhesive remover. The thing is, anytime you put anything on your body or in your body, especially a chemical such as something that's going to be a solvent, you really need to get the MSDS, or the material safety data sheet, to really understand, what precautions you need to take. So people are talking about Goo Gone, of course, acetone, rubbing alcohol, paint thinner, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So people have all this advice, and she was asking for advice, and I'm like, oh, no one's saying right. Well, very few people said the right thing, and that is get your butt to a doctor. So that is really the number one thing that she ended up doing. But the other piece of advice, and I hate to say this, but it's true. You and I were talking about this before we came on, but there were people who were saying, you know what? This is going to get a lot of attention and you need to make your money. So get a YouTube channel and keep people abreast. And I was not mad at that advice. On top of it, so first, doctor. Second, go ahead and get a YouTube channel and make your money, because she may need it. I can't even imagine the trauma that she's going through right now.
I would like to add something very quickly, because I'm not sure how a lot of things is just, when social media takes something, you're not really sure where the information is coming from anymore. But there was a video released about probably yesterday of her possibly, I don't know if it's her, sitting down and her friend trying to use acetone to try and help her remove it from her scalp. And she looks like she's in so much pain. If that's really her, she looks like she's in so much pain. And now that you've broken down the chemistry of using acetone and how it's possibly used in there, I'm scared. I'm scared because now she's taking advice from other people, and it might worsen the situation. And really, I think again here is another lesson to learn about reaching out to people who actually know what they're saying, reaching out to the professionals who have studied this, who understand this in detail, and are not doing this, because most of these people giving advice have never experienced this before. So what do they really know besides coming from maybe a chemistry point of view? I don't know how many people are actually doing that, because if they were, they would come to the conclusion that you have just come to. And so I also even went to the safety data sheet as well, and it was talking about avoid breathing this fume. If she sprayed it on her hair, she probably did that as well. It says it can cause skin irritation. You might have symptoms of redness, so her scalp is also possibly in danger. It says to go also to a poison center if you get this on your skin or in your eyes. And so these are very grave things that we need to be very careful about for our health as well, not just our hair, but our health too. And so, yeah, I just wanted to add that in there.
Thank you for that. No, really appreciate it. And, I think your training as, in becoming a chemical engineer gives you, specialized information on how to go about getting, true information that would be useful, right? And so it's actually a good segue into what we're talking about with hair, because The amount of misinformation out there, which is one of the reasons why I have this platform, so we can get to the heart of really what you should consider and not consider. And I know that you have done some things in the past, and you and I have had conversations about how difficult it is to really get useful information that will be advantageous for hair science, or Black hair in particular. So I wanted to ask you about, what has been your experience? I know that you have a uniqueness in that you have an interest and you're choosing chemical engineering to go about doing it, and I applaud it, because the background that you get in chemistry, engineering, physics, all of that plays a role in really understanding and making advancements. So can you give your experiences and what it has taken for you to get to, some of the information that you have found to be useful?
Of course. Um, this hasn't been a very easy path. It's one that I've had to I would say to to find myself. When you come to chemical engineering, most of the careers they're preparing you for probably in the oil industry and the paint industry, nothing much in the cosmetic industry, even though it is known that chemical engineering is one of the best ways to enter the personal care industry. This was one of the things I found out when I was researching, but also from speaking to people who have worked in these spaces. They really tell you do chemical engineering. And the reason I chose this degree was because of that reason, but also if I decided that hair wasn't my thing after all, I had the chance and the opportunity to explore different places. So I believe that it would give me enough skills that I can transfer to um to other careers if I wanted to. But hair is my thing. I'm so happy, and I'm happy to be in here and to stay here. What I've had to do really is to find other opportunities to explore hair. And so really combining what I'm learning at school, and then reaching out to organizations, companies, people who are in this space to connect with them, but to also seek their help into how I can go about this. So first thing would be books, reading books really to start to get an idea into what hair care science could be like, as well as seeking internship opportunities. I was going to work as a research assistant at TRI, for example, which is a research institute for skin and hair. So that was going to be one of the ways that I was going to get that personalized experience for hair, as well as my university as well gives access to research journals and papers, and taking some time out to read those, read the textbooks, read the information that you currently have about hair, and start to think about ways that you can innovate, ways that you can add to the conversation. As well as even during my degree as a chemical engineer, we have opportunities to do projects. I usually make my projects about hair. So thinking about shampoos, how that can work with fluids, how that can work with heat transfer. These are subjects we do in chemical engineering. So I always try to think about my classes and how I can apply what I'm learning to hair care, and to innovation in the hair space. And also part of doing that is really also reaching far and wide. You never know where you can get opportunities from. Even things like hair art, for example, people do things with a lot of materials, and it's just very interesting to learn. And that is what it's really been like for me. You would have to seek these things out yourself until it becomes something that is normal. But I'm always willing to help and guide if you need any help. Do you want me?
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Oh, okay. But not a lot of students know that they should advocate for themselves. I mean, you said something that was key, and that is you have the ability to utilize whatever projects that you have in your studies and tailor it to hair. And so it not only allows you to get credit for it, but it also,
Yes.
the body of knowledge that you need to have that foundation that will be useful for the career that you're seeking. So I think that's absolutely fantastic. The other thing, and I mentioned it earlier, the fact that you reached out to me was like really good, because students just kind of feel, a little afraid, thinking that the answer is going to be no. But without even asking, you're already at the answer no, right? And so at least give it a chance. And I just have a special place where I feel like I should mentor, because not too many people know about hair science. It's something that is important to us as human beings and as Black women, but then to marry some of the fundamental, I'll say, just topics and concepts in science with hair is really important. And so you and I had a conversation not too long ago about a project that you had, because you wanted to talk about the science of shrinkage. And so you and I were talking about Hooke's law.
Yes.
It's a concept that you learn in physics, but you never think that you're going to really apply it in real life, right? So give us some, just tell us the story about how that came about and what you learned.
Yeah, so it's very interesting because I run away from physics. I'm always like, what, hair is chemistry. Like most of it is product formulation. I just need the chemistry part. And I was speaking to you and you started mentioning gravitational potential energy and kinetic energy. I'm like, wait, this was high school physics and now it's showing up in shrinkage. And the first thing I really wanted to say was that it really showed me how much science is on my head. And why that is important is because I believe that in terms of the group of people who are typically seen as engineers, we don't see a lot of Black women yet. And I believe that this is a space for them to come into, knowing pretty well that this is something personal for them, something they can interact with every day. I interact with my hair every day. Every day I'm thinking about the science of what is going in there, what I'm using, how it's damaging my hair or how it's helping my hair. So this project was really part of a science reporting class that I'm currently taking. I believe that there's a lot of information out there in the science world, but what we need to do now is translate that into language that consumers can understand and can use to properly care for their hair. And so that class is really saying, how do you translate the science into something that is very easy for people to read and learn from? One thing I wanted to do was explain shrinkage. I believe that a lot of us know shrinkage, but we don't really know shrinkage. Because when I was speaking with you, I'm like, I thought I knew shrinkage. Like I thought, like even from the science perspective I was coming from, that I knew shrinkage, and I had to even email you again. Like I'm still confused about this thing. What is going on with bonds in my hair and how shrinkage works? So for me, that project was really eye-opening and made me understand how important it is to know the details to really be able to draw sound conclusions. Because right now, I have more evidence as to why shrinkage is just your hair doing its thing, and we should really just allow our hair to shrink. It's just going back to its lowest energy state, which is what it likes to do. So, whatever you want to do, the force of nature is going to act against it, and your hair is going to revert. So, the best thing to do is just work with it, right? Don't work against it, rather understand it so you can it. And if you don't want your hair to shrink, there are ways you can do that. If you don't understand the way shrinkage works, you're always going to be frustrated with your hair because it shrinks, and that is what it loves to do. So that was really what I learned from that. I learned that there's a lot of science in our hair, there's a lot of physics in our hair, very interesting, in fact, and that we should really just let our hair do its thing because that's what it loves.
Interesting you say that, because the science, so our desire to want to overcome that lowest state of energy, as you just said, we don't want it to do that. But that's why chemistry is so important, because there there are ways that we can try to stop that from happening. And so you're talking about chemical engineering, but we also have biology and chemistry and physics and computer science and mathematics, because all of the models that we have to try to overcome that lowest state energy when the hair shrinks, there are some models that we can use to try to fix it in a way where we can overcome that. And so, you know, trying to measure the amount of energy that it takes to overcome for certain hair types, because, you know, we talk about the degrees of curl, you know, you have curl typing from, you know, the 1A all the way to the 4C, but then you also have something that we did at L'Oreal, which was a classification system from 1 to 8. And that was a little bit more based on quantitative analysis, so measurements that you actually can take and rely on, instead of, you know, something that's more subjective, such as just looking at it and trying to categorize it yourself. But the thing about it is we need mathematicians and physicists to help us with the modeling, because that helps us to create things. And so we all have to work together. And then as we get all this data, we need biostatisticians to be able to make sense of all the information that we have, you know. But I do want to address the question that we have here on the screen. You know, what would someone or how would someone go about finding more information about hair science? And so you and I had a conversation about that and the challenges there are. And let's hear about how you do it as a student, and then I will come back and share, you know, some perspectives as well.
Okay, so I will start with how I started, which is how a lot of people start, which is YouTube and articles online. Um, I don't want to paint them as bad, because I do believe sometimes there can be some useful information. However, I would say let that be a starting point to expose you to what is possibly out there. And when you see that, it's also very useful to understand what people are taking in. So you as a scientist can understand how to add to the conversation. So when I then understand what is currently out easily for people to see and for me to just generally read, I then start looking at research papers. So I just search a topic and find some research papers, look at what they're saying. Research papers can be hard to read. It takes me 3 times to go over them to really understand it. With more experience, you do get better at taking the information in. But if you find it a bit hard, trust me, it's not you. It's just the way it's something you get used to over time. So looking at research papers, seeing, and this is something whereby you're going to have to piece the information, because the research paper is probably searching for just one thing. So you don't just use one thing. You use one thing from one research paper, another thing from one research paper, and then you bring all that information to make your conclusions. But I believe that what we need to do now is cite our information, because when we look at articles, I'm like, where did you get this information from? Where did this conclusion come from? I want to know. I want to check. I want to investigate further. And I think going the extra mile to really question yourself, does this make sense? Why is this? Why is someone saying this? So sulfates, I'm going to go there. Sulfates are bad for your hair. Sulfates are harsh. Who said? Where's the paper? Who who said? Basically, where's the science? What is the science behind it? Before then, understanding how that works to be able to draw your own conclusions is very important. So these are some of the things I do. Also, like I said before, reading books, speaking to experts, asking people, what do you think about this subject? I do believe that some websites are doing a better job at actually reaching out to experts to hear from their perspective and using that instead of just searching quickly and typing the exact same thing you saw in a different article. So that space is growing, but as a scientist yourself, you need to do your own investigations.
Thank you so much. that was really good. But a lot of people don't even know what a journal article is, and so I want to go a little bit into that. And what you hit on is something that I felt very passionate about, because you hear a lot of people on social media saying, I've done my research, I've done my research. And most of the times, what they mean by them doing their research is that they're doing a Google search, and that is not doing research at all. And so I had to develop a class, because I was like, okay, I have students who work with me. As I said, I partner with serious and conscientious hair practitioners who want to be a part of the solution. And so when I started hearing some of my students say, I'm doing my research, I was like, they don't know what research is. And so in terms of searching and really getting things that are vetted, and something that you shouldn't, so there are always some things that are in the literature that could have been, optimized a little bit more. And so just developing the critical thinking that it takes to really dissect and really understand what they did, what was the purpose. And so 5 years ago, I came up with the Scientific Study Blueprint for Hair Practitioners, Part 1. That just laid the foundation for just getting people to understand what science and research or hair research was about. But then I was like, okay, that's just scratching the surface. That's just giving you the vocabulary so that you can understand and follow along. But now that you know the vocabulary, now let's start immersing you into different journal articles where you can, like you said earlier, it's not always easy to read. Sometimes it's, depending upon the journal and their focus, it's very hard to understand. And so it takes practice. So it was like it was supposed to be an 8-week long course, and it turned out to be like maybe either 10 or 11 sessions, because I really wanted to give a lot of practice and to have a lot of feedback, talking about the variables and the purpose and the hypothesis and all that type of stuff. So that is something that is important when trying to understand science. But when you do your research, if you're not getting your hands on published peer-reviewed journal articles, then it's very difficult for you to, with a lot of confidence, be able to depend on the information that's given. So thank you for mentioning that. And with you being at a university, they have all this stuff, accessible to you. So unfortunately, a lot of times it's hard for people to get their hands on journal articles, but that is something that is going to help you get the information about hair science.
Yes, I would like to take advantage of everything your university offers if you're currently in university, because when you leave, it's very expensive to subscribe to these places where you can get information. So really, it's not easy to do it along with your degree. So, but taking a lot of information, taking as much as you can when you have access to it for free, or you're technically paying, but while you don't have to pay extra, because it does differentiate you when you have access to these places where you can actually do proper research. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a question. How is heat able to denature hair but allow it to be reversed by moisture? So I think it's two different concepts with this, because denaturing, if you denature the hair, then it's not going to be reversed, or you're not going to be able to revert the curl with moisture. So I'm going to simplify this and say, and I think this is a question that you had, so I'm going to let you answer it if you feel comfortable. But basically, in the simplified version, I want you to answer, how is heat, when you add heat and able to straighten it without denaturing, because that's how does it allow it to go back? How does moisture allow it to go back?
Okay, so I'm going to try my best to break this down. So, for example, let's just start at a state where there's actually moisture in your hair, there's water in your hair, because it's not advisable to straighten your hair when it's dry or add heat to your hair when it's already dry. What happens is that your hair has has bonds called hydrogen bonds, and water has those bonds as well. And so in science, we use the thing called like attracts like in that sense. So the bonds really just mix, and the water makes it such that the hair bonds are now flexible and can move around in different ways. So then when you add heat to the hair, for example, let's say you want to straighten it, what happens is that because it's flexible, let's say you stretch out the hair, and let's just say you just leave your hair stretched out and held for a very long time and it dries, let's just say the heat from the sun, for example, what is happening is that the hydrogen bonds that have been rearranged are now, when they dry out or when it dries, they now stick to that arrangement. So they're able to now become rigid as opposed to flexible when you had moisture in it. So I don't know if that is clear enough, but that's really how straightening the hair works. In like you can rearrange the bonds in hair with water, and when that water dries out, while the hair is in this new arrangement, it stays that way because the bonds are now rigid again.
Very good. Yes, you did an excellent job. But I mean, I was hoping it was fresh in your mind because that's some of the stuff that we went over. So yeah, you did a great job. I do want to talk about denaturing the hair though, because when people say that they add too much heat where they heat damage their hair, that is when denaturing occurs. And so your hair won't revert back. It's denatured, meaning that the structure of the protein has changed and it does not go back. And so oftentimes I give the analogy to, everybody knows egg, a raw egg in its raw form is different. It has a different structure than when you boil it or when you scramble it. And so that denatures the egg. So it's a totally different structure. There is no going back. And so it's the same thing with hair. There is no going back. So you don't necessarily have to denature the hair in order to straighten it. And or if you add heat, it doesn't necessarily result in denaturing. So that's one of the things I wanted to point out about the question. So thank you for that, Imani. Really appreciate it. Let me see, is that still available? Shannon, I believe you're probably talking about the literature review course that I had. It was an extension of the part 1 that I had. And so yes, but if you put call in the chat, then you should be able to get my scheduler. So that'll work. Yep. Awesome. So thank you for explaining that, Ayin. Wanted to ask you about, so you and I also had discussions about so what motivated you to actually want to get into hair science? So, I mean, is there an event that happened? I mean, what was the driving force for you to do that?
There's a series of events that happened. It wasn't a thing of I woke up today and decided to do hair. I was studying in the UK, and the way the university system works, you can't apply undecided. You have to apply with a specific degree, knowing fully well what you want to do. So I was 16, having to decide what I want to do with my life, and I was like, I don't know, but that was sort of also the time the makeup movement was still very big. And I used to watch a lot of makeup videos, and I realized that I wasn't watching them just because of the beauty, but understanding how the different products they were using were interacting. So people would use primers and they'll say, I have oily to combination skin, and this primer is a mattifying primer. And what it does is that it stops the oils from coming. I was very intrigued by the entire science that was going on in the way they layered the product and why they use certain things, how they use their setting spray to keep it on your face. And so I decided to go into skincare. I actually started with skincare, understanding how skincare works and how we use these ingredients in our skin. I again bought books to start exploring, and I read this book. It's called Cosmetics Unmasked. And I think that was the first time I really started to even understand how people were using claims to market their goods. So one of the things the author highlighted was how people would say no testing. So they hadn't tested their product on animals. So yes, no animal testing. And she said, yes, they can say no animal testing because they didn't test that specific product, but the ingredients in the products had been tested in the past on animals. So technically, do you really have no animal testing? Because if you go to the past, the ingredients have probably been tested and found that it's safe for humans. So now they can use it and claim that there was no testing for that specific product. So that really opened my eyes to understanding how people make claims and how you really have to dig into them to really understand what that means. And so one thing that I'm seeing now is over 20 years of research has gone into this product. What does that mean? Does that mean they've been thinking about this product for 20 years? Or does that mean maybe the paper they got the information from was 20 years old? So really understanding how people market and how you shouldn't be tricked by those claims was how I started also understanding this aspect of it. Then I went natural. I went natural by mistake. Actually, I was watching a lot of YouTubers from the US. They looked like me, but we had very different hair. I had my hair relaxed, and I was like, "Why do you guys have different hair from me? We look the same." And a lot of people talked about, stopping relaxers. It was harmful, and the chemicals. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to stop using it." But I always wore braids. So even if I stopped using relaxers, my natural hair was growing out. But I didn't know because I didn't know what texture my hair actually was. So I didn't understand what was happening. I just took the braids out, put it back in. I didn't care what my hair was doing. I never took care of my hair or had to take care of it before. So I didn't understand what was happening. But I started seeing a lot of people around me with natural hair and it looked very nice. So I'm like, oh, okay, I guess so. I didn't understand hair. I didn't understand what was happening. I didn't understand how to care for it. I didn't understand what it meant to be natural. I didn't understand anything. And then one day I'm at the salon and they tell me your hair is natural. I'm like, that's impossible. My hair can't be natural. I was relaxed how many months ago? My hair cannot be natural. And so this journey that I started this with having no idea of what hair was, right? And when that happened, I cut my hair off because it was damaged. I didn't care for it when it was relaxed, neither did I when it was natural. So it had grown out, but it was breaking all the time. It was breaking everywhere. My parents were complaining, your hair is everywhere. I was tired, so I just cut it off. And I wore it cut for a good amount of time. I really enjoyed that phase. It was very nice. And I started to grow out my hair. And that happened was when I really understood what it meant. I knew that I had no understanding of what hair was, no understanding of what hair care entailed, no understanding of what hairstyling entailed, and I was just left in this field. No one in my family was natural. I was the first person to really say, "I'm going to do this." So I didn't even know what people in what the trend is like. Do we have hair that grows very fast? Does our hair grow slowly? Do we have thick hair? I had no idea. So this was me just starting afresh and I started to see the struggles. The struggles started, and in those struggles, I started doing the same thing. When I was thinking about skincare and I was watching videos of thinking about hair care and what people were saying of how these ingredients does this and that does that, and it really just opened up my mind. So this is something that is personal for me with my hair, but also something that I then became interested in when I started digging into how to care for my hair. So that was how I went into hair science.
Awesome. So, your experience is like, I think a lot of people's when it comes to, well, maybe not knowing, because you said you didn't realize that your hair was just growing and growing and you were basically growing the relaxer out. But your experience in having a lot of damage and, your hair being everywhere and just saying, okay, I'm just going to cut it. I think that's an experience that we can relate to when growing our hair out. Now, you have a different perspective as a student. You kind of knew what you wanted to do. And so a lot of the artistic professionals who, like the cosmetologists, and then those who actually go into trichology because they want to be more about the health of the hair and scalp, and barbers who care about, how you look and the aesthetics of it. I think that, you have a unique so your background and you really researched how you can be a part of the industry. But there are hair professionals out there who have no idea about how to do it. And that is one of the reasons why I partner with hair practitioners because I see the beauty in us working together because, and you'll find this out, Ayan, that doing the research in the laboratory is one thing. A lot of things are controlled, but in actuality, it's more important, I think, to get what we call, or me and my colleagues when I worked at L'Oreal, we called it real life samples. And that really is like taking a snapshot or getting a snapshot of information about how the hair is in people's real lives and not just, having one type of way of studying it. And there are advantages to both, and I'm not going to go into all of that. But the one thing I want to say about hair professionals is I see the passion of professionals really wanting to make that difference and to understand science. And all they have at this point of time, or at least before this platform started, all they had were a lot of YouTubers on there giving their perspective. And I think it was just a regurgitation of misinformation. Everybody's saying the same things and it's just wrong over and over again. But one of the things that I feel is important is for hair practitioners who want it to have the ability to not only understand science, but to also be about the science. So one of the things I did want to say on this particular session we're having is to give options. And that is, having the opportunity to get more education, but then also having the ability to do studies on human subjects. So, Anne, have you heard of city training?
Oh, I haven't.
You haven't. So I wasn't sure because depending upon your studies and then what you may start doing, city training is collaborative institutional training initiative. And that is training that you get if you want to start doing studies on animals or on humans. And so a lot of people have heard of the Tuskegee experiments, where the research was not really controlled by an ethics board. A lot of unethical things went on. And so city training allows you to get training so that you have a true understanding about what you need to consider and all of the ethical things. And then you're overseen, if you do a research study, your study is overseen by this ethics board, which is called an institutional review board. And so having the ability to have the training and be a part of a study really gives you the unique ability to be a part of the solution, which I say over and over again. But I really do feel passionate about the fact that there are a lot of professionals who have the ability to do this, and a lot of the hair practitioners know nothing about it. And so I wanted to be one of the first to try to, have an olive branch out to say, hey, I know you don't have the background that I do, but let's partner because we have both, we have our unique way of contributing to the industry. And it's time. It's time. It's just not a lot of information out there. Now, Ayan, you and I had a conversation about it, and I'm not going to name the reference, and I think you'll know what I'm talking about. But you were asking me about disulfide bonds, like black hair having more bonds than other types of hair. And I was like, I don't remember seeing that. And I still to this day cannot find that. But I think that lends itself to, more proof about the misinformation out there. And if there is, a reference that is shown that says, okay, even though this is a statement, you have to have a references backup. So can you tell me a little bit about your experience in trying to find good information that you can depend on?
Firstly, I would like to reinforce what you said. I do believe as well that we need to partner more with each other. I believe that stylists have a unique perspective. They're doing this every day in and out. And sometimes science can be very isolating, like the way we don't experiment on scalps that much, for example. And so really need a platform where we can merge our information. I think that's where the sweet point really is. And for practitioners who are looking to do that, I think the platform you're raising up is very important. You don't have to be the one doing the research. There are people who love to do the research. I think that the best thing is to be, what do I want to do, and how can I collaborate with other people to give the best information possible? And so I think, with regards to the question you asked me, one thing I also try to do besides just looking at papers and asking people, and let me just put on asking people, when you're doing research, I think it's very important to seek outside scientists as well to talk about what you just read. The reason is, everyone thinks their research is best. Everyone thinks their idea is the best thing ever. They spend nights thinking about this very important idea. I do it too. We all love to do it, right? It's extremely important to get other scientists to talk about this. They've been doing this for a long time too, and they are more likely to know whether this is something that is new, this is something that would work, if there are holes in this research, because this is something that they do. So definitely building your network in that space with people who you trust can really speak on other people's research in a way that is useful. So not people who are going to maybe dub it down, but people who are really going to give you proper evidence and proper reasons as to why they're saying what they're saying. And then after that is really also building your network with stylists. I believe that it's important to understand what is being told to consumers, but also understand what they're seeing every day. What we see in the lab, what we choose to research, might be different to what they see every day. The stylists are more likely to know how the trends have gone over time, because people are coming to them asking for certain styles or certain products or certain things or with certain problems. So I believe that, like you said, really a space where we can all come and share our information and then collaborate with that information to create science that really works and really addresses the needs of consumers today, is really where this industry should be going to.
Thank you for that. Yeah. So I know you and I have spoken in the past about the difficulty in getting information about Black hair in particular, right? And so that's where my passion is right now. I feel that there are scientists who are out there who are very invested in what we're doing, but unless you have the perspective of Black scientists to actually add value or give a different perspective, so that we can tweak the way things have been done always, from when wool was studied, because that's where hair science really originated from, having an understanding about wool and the textile industry. But there's not a lot of information out there about hair. So that's like one of the reasons why advancements are needed, because I've been away from the L'Oreal Institute for Ethnic Hair and Skin Research since 2013. And basically they shut down a year later. And since then, so it's almost been 6 years, there hasn't been a lot of advancements. It's like the knowledge seeking stopped. So that's one of the reasons why it's important. So I can't believe an hour has almost passed. So I just wanted to say advancements are needed. And if you have any type of passion about hair, please reach out, because I am interested in collaborating so that we can all work together to advance what this, knowledge gap is. It's time to make a difference. So with that, can we find, yes. So
how do we want to do this?
so the question is, where can we find Ayin online?
Yes, you can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Ayin Abegunde, what you see on the screen on LinkedIn. You can also email me. My name, ayin@abegunde@gmail.com. And yeah, that's really one of the best ways to reach out to me. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So I think you have given a lot of people food for thought when it comes to, not only what is needed, the background needed, but just how you should just be an advocate to reach out for what you have a passion for. I think it's absolutely fantastic. If there is anyone who is viewing who's like, oh, she's someone who would be a great intern, then that would be useful as well, reaching out. Yes. I'm also brainstorming. I'm trying to get some funding to get you as well. I would love, I think you would get a kick out of what I'm doing. So, and, it's always good to have plenty of hands and minds, different perspectives. So I'm working on that as well. So thank you guys for joining. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Ayin. And as always, so next week, I will actually be answering questions because we have a lot of questions that are answered that we never get to. So next week I will be answering questions. But until then, thank you so much. Make sure you can give a thumbs up and subscribe and join our Facebook group, Our Black Hair Matters. And let me see, is there anything else I'm missing? Oh, and if you want to get in touch, if you have ideas, put call into the chat and schedule time to meet with me. All right, and thank you guys so much. And as always, take care and love your hair. Bye-bye.